Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Bayou Bets for Thursday, March the 16th. I'm Zach Ewing, live from Las Vegas. I'm at the Treasure Island. I'm outside the viewing area. You can probably see the screens with the games on them back there.
Lucky
fingers
bastard.
crossed the internet holds out. It's been a good day so far, Jim. MIZ.
Yeah, I was waiting for that to come. I had
You didn't
a
have to wait long.
Yeah, I had a perfect shirt to wear that included what I thought of the morning, except for Furman and St. Patrick's Day and Mizzou, all rolled into one. But it had green letters, and I forgot that I can't wear green on my green screen behind me. So I'll have to save it for another day.
That's really too bad. I'm disappointed.
I know you're upset about that. It said, "You pinch, I punch."
All right. Well, listen, we are live in March Madness. We're going to do some tourney takeaways here. We're going to talk about this morning's games. We want to know who picked Furman. Shout out in the comments if you picked Furman to beat Virginia. That was the most exciting finish. Although West Virginia, Maryland, a good game as well, Jim. We had a couple of really good games in that early window.
Yeah, that one hurt. That really kind of ruined my morning as much as Furman helped me. West Virginia choking. For some unknown, ungodly reason, they decided with 8 seconds left to go for two when they needed a three to tie it up, which is a dumb move. I mean, I know maybe I'm thinking you're kind of like go for fourth down method in football. It's kind of the same thing. But it makes no sense not to go for three there when you have decent three-point shooters and you've been hitting them. I mean, the best thing that's going to happen is they're going to go down, miss a free throw, you come down, you're going to have 4 seconds left, just like they did, and they couldn't do it. I mean, it makes much more sense when you have control of the basketball and control of the game in your hands to just go for the three. If you don't get it, maybe you get the rebound. I mean, I'm really frustrated.
Let's be clear here. The equivalent of going for it on fourth down is shooting the three. Like you said, you've got the ball in your hands. Do what you need to do in the game. Don't give it to. So that's the equivalent of going for it on fourth down. I agree with you.
No, I thought you would.
I will say we have 4 games finished and 3 outright underdogs winning. So it's been a good. Kansas, the only one who they smashed Howard. That was actually a close game for 15 minutes. They smashed Howard. They were the only favorite to cover. Look, we do this every year, right? Where we love the upsets, and then we sit and we pick our brackets, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, Virginia can't lose to Furman." I've never heard of Furman. They were only 6-point dogs, Jim. It was plus 180 on the money line. Like, you picked Furman. We got to give these smaller schools some more respect.
Yeah, even if my bracket ends up stinking, which it could, who knows? It's early. But my biggest bet of the first half of the day was on Furman plus 6, and I wanted to bet the money line to go with it, and I didn't pull the trigger. But I'm pretty happy. So no matter what happens the rest of this morning, everything else is covered with my Furman bet.
We want to remind everybody, if you'd like to get in on the action before we talk about some best bets for tonight's games, you can go to lsuposter.com and bet a minimum of $10. Like, who doesn't want to do that on March Madness weekend? And we will send you a 3-poster set of former front pages from LSU championship runs, Heisman trophies, all of the above, to your front door for free. All it takes is a $10 bet, and we're going to give you some bets. What do you like tonight, Jim?
Oh, Spence is in the green room. He's not going to like it when I say this. Our daily best bet of the day, the Tennessee Volunteers. I think they've got something to prove. Also, I think they're going to go out and start hot and hit them up. And sorry, Cajuns fans. I think Tennessee is going to win big. That's my favorite play of the night, and that's not till later on. I also like UCLA to thump UNC Asheville. So I don't normally take double-digit favorites, but in this case, I like both of those there, and we'll be playing both of those, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think my favorite pick tonight is also in the late window, and it's Texas A&M -3. Buzz Williams was ticked off about that seed. They should not be a number 7 seed. I think you're going to see a very motivated Aggies team, and I don't think 3 points is enough there. Some of the early games, I'm not as crazy about these. I could maybe see an Oral Roberts +6.
Yes, I like Oral
Yeah,
Roberts.
even Colgate's the type of team that keeps a game close. 13.5 maybe too many there. I don't think they win the game, but 13.5 maybe too many.
I like Oral Roberts outright. I think the money line is a good pick there. I don't necessarily. I mean, that's one where I would probably put a little bit on the money line and put a lot more on the spread. I've already bet the spread. I've not bet that money line yet. I may or may not. The only thing that scares me about Texas A&M, and I agree with you 100%, I think Buzz Williams is going to have them super fired up. But the only thing that makes me nervous is that is a very trendy pick right now, and I don't like betting with the public. I do agree with you. I think that Texas A&M is certainly the better team. I think they would be more motivated. It just makes me a little nervous putting much on that. But like I said, I don't like to be betting with Aunt Mabel too much.
And then tomorrow we got more games. These are the first games of the day. I'm going to be totally honest. I haven't looked that much at tomorrow's games yet. Just to be honest, because I've been too much into today's. But what do you like tomorrow?
I like VCU. I know the Gales have played well, and they may be underrated, but I like both of those teams, really. I think that's a really interesting matchup. I think that's one that's going to go back and forth. I think that's the most going to be the most fun of the first four for sure, maybe of the entire first half of the day. I think that one's going back and forth, and I really like VCU. I like the way they've been playing, and I think they're going to win this one outright.
I actually like all the dogs in this early window except for USC. Kennesaw State is a better team than you think. Again, you haven't heard of these schools. They can play ball. I love VCU. I'm with you on that one. St. Mary's, they're a very good team in the half court. If you press them, they will turn the ball over. And VCU, just like they did when Shaka Smart was there, 10 years ago and they made the Final Four, they still play that style. They will press you. So I like VCU. And Cal Santa Barbara slows the ball down. Baylor struggles against teams that slow the ball down. And so 10.5 may be a lot of points there for Baylor to cover. So 3 dogs there I like.
I think when you talk about a team like Kennesaw State, Xavier's automatically going to get points added to their total because they're playing a team that no one's ever heard of. So if Kennesaw State, if you put the same bodies in, like, I don't know, Virginia Tech, the same exact bodies, it would probably be more like a 8-point spread. So right off to me, you're getting like 5 points of value. So I agree with you. I like Kennesaw State as well. I want to give a shout out. Sarah Rentz is listening from Laurel, Mississippi.
Sarah?
Say hello to my nephew, Bo Foreman, who plays for Southeast Baptist College baseball team. They're not doing great right now, but hey, he's living his dream. He's still playing college baseball.
Heck yeah. And CC is here. She says, who dat? We do have some Saints talk on the way. I'd like to know what y'all's best bet is for tonight or tomorrow. If you have a pick for March Madness, let us know. The afternoon games tomorrow, the one that sticks out here, maybe UConn and Iona with Rick Pitino coaching against UConn, something that he has done many times in his career. I don't know that I have a strong take on that one. I think the one I like here is Creighton -5 against NC State. Not enough points.
Creighton is my favorite pick. I got to be honest. If I were Iowa State, I'd be really scared of Pitt the way that they played the other night. I'd like the fight that I saw. And, we've seen throughout since they added these play-in games that these 11 seeds have been tough to beat because they're already got an extra couple days in playoff mode. And Arizona State especially when we get to them later on. I think those 2 11 seeds are going to be tough to be knocked out, and I like getting points with those teams. But I'm with you. If I had to pick one on this list, I'd probably pick Creighton. I hate that I like a lot of favorites because I like Marquette as well, even though Vermont can certainly give them a run for their money. That is a team that probably should have been seeded a little bit better than 15, in my opinion.
Yeah, I liked a lot of dogs in that first window, like the favorites here. Real quickly through tomorrow night here on Bayou Bets, these are the early games tomorrow evening. Some big spreads, Purdue against Fairleigh Dickinson. I will say this. I read today that a team from the state of New Jersey has won at least one game in 5 straight tournaments. There's only 2 teams from New Jersey in the tournament. One is Princeton, and they're losing to Arizona right now, and the other is Fairleigh Dickinson. So I think that streak probably comes to an end.
Yeah, you like when I bring up trends, you like to tell me when they're meaningless trends and make little funny faces. That's one where you would make a funny face. So what? Who cares? That ain't happening, and that ain't happening. We talked about Drake. I think we both like Drake here. Again, it scares me a little bit. That's a trendy pick, and it's always weird when you see a 5 versus a 12, and it's only a 2-point. Miami's only given 2. So I don't know how much I would put on Drake. You might as well put the money line if you're going to play that game. I don't love it, and I do like Providence. I don't think Kentucky, even if Kentucky wins this game, I don't think it's going to be by a ton, and I don't think they're going to go very far. I don't think Kentucky's very good, to be honest. I think they're very overrated.
All right,
Texas A&M should have got that spot.
I agree. I want to switch back to Thursday just for a second because I have somebody here asking me for a pick.
Okay.
So let's go to the early window tonight. And I think Oral Roberts +6 is the one we're going with here, Jim.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think we're both on the same train
6.
with that.
Yeah.
Like it.
Oral Roberts +6 is the pick. All right. We're handing out picks here at Treasure Island on the Las Vegas Strip. Moving on
Tell
to
them to
tomorrow
go to
night's.
NOLA.com.
That's right. Tomorrow night's late games. I think Memphis is live to go deep in this tournament, but I worry about them beating a very good Florida Atlantic team.
You know what? Memphis, I think what scares me about them, and I do have them in my bracket, but I didn't bet it, and I don't love it, and here's the reason why. They're such a streaky team. They show that they can be good enough to beat the number 1 team in the country, but I think at the same time they could lose to a 16 seed if it was the right scenario. To me, that's too volatile to bet. I don't like it at all. If I had to pick one, I would take Memphis, but I don't see any reason to bet it there. Going across the rest of them, is that number right with TCU really minus 16?
No, I was just looking at that. That can't be right.
I didn't think so.
That's got to be a typo. Let me get that line. It's -6.
Okay, so and I still like Arizona State. I think I put TCU in my bracket, and I didn't change it because I'd already changed too many things. But I really like the way Arizona State played the other night, and I last night, and I know that they were hitting threes, and that's going to be hard to continue to be as hot as they were. And they, I really think Arizona State has a chance to win that game. So if you making me pick one from the late window, it's that. And don't sleep on Kent State. That is going to be one heck of a ball game. Another 4-13 game like Furman and Virginia earlier today. That one's going to be really good too.
I agree. I'll sprinkle a little money line on Kent State. I think they're live to win that game. But look, again, we shouldn't be surprised by these big spreads. They're going to happen, or by these big upsets by seeds, because they're going to happen because the spreads are not that big.
Yeah.
And that should be a bigger clue to you. All right. Speaking of big spreads, I want to take a minute. The LSU women open their tournament run tomorrow against Hawaii. They're 32-point favorites, Jim. Would you ever lay 32 points in a basketball game?
Yes, I would. I don't know anything about Hawaii, but generally 1, 2, and 3 seeds roll in the first round. Doesn't surprise me that the spread's that big. I don't know why you would want to bet it either way. It doesn't really, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you can't talk about value when you get to a number like 32. So you can't say LSU's a value at minus 32, but at the same time, do you want to rush to the window and take the 32 points with Hawaii? I don't. So that's not a game that I would bet on either way. But I don't think LSU's going to have any trouble winning this game whatsoever.
No, I think you're right. Like, Kim Mulkey is going to want her team to come out and make a statement tomorrow. I could see it being a blowout.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to make shots to win by 32. If you're not having a good shooting day, you got to settle for the 25-point win. So
it'd be pretty funny if you went to the line and probably could get. I mean, do they do alternate lines on women's games like this? What can you get? Hawaii plus 20 at plus 240. I mean, just kind of crazy. So no, I wouldn't touch this game. There's no reason to.
Zoe, our producer, who's a women's basketball expert, says Hawaii's got post players who can shoot. It's just an athlete difference. I don't see Hawaii scoring a ton of points. We'll see. By the way, South Carolina against Norfolk State opened 43.5. It's now 50.5. South Carolina minus 50.5.
Same thing. You rush it in a window to take take the 50.5 points? I'm not. No reason to bet it.
No, I mean, South Carolina could easily win that game by 70 if they really were motivated to.
Yeah, I've already got my South Carolina minus 180, and you can have the field bet.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is true. All right, by the way, just a kind of a live update. Arizona is only up 31-30 at the half against Princeton. So the New Jersey bet is live.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on the New Jersey bet.
We've seen
The New
Princeton
Jersey
come
streak.
up with some big upsets in the first round before. So, you know, again, that wasn't a game I was going to mess with either way. I don't like Arizona in this tournament. I know some people picked them to go far, and I changed my bracket. I had them losing in the next round. I can't even remember who would have them playing, but I changed it and now have them going to the Sweet 16. I hope I don't regret that change. But I just don't see them going that far in this tournament. I don't think they're balanced enough to go far. But we'll see. They're in a tough region as well.
Winner of that game, by the way, plays the Missouri Tigers. So
there you go.
You know,
and look, I said this the other day, and I meant it. I mean, I wasn't sold on Utah State, which is why I bet the over, and I lost on that, by the way. But when Mizzou's hot and they're shooting well, they're tough to beat no matter who they play. I mean, they're going to be a tough out if they're playing well. Now, they didn't play that great today. Luckily for them, Utah State wasn't hitting anything early. But then they did. The second half, I thought Mizzou played very well. So if they play like they played in the second half today, they're going to be a pain in the butt. I wouldn't want to play him. And I don't like Arizona.
Got their star, Kobe Brown, out of foul trouble, and he took over the game. All right,
yeah.
So that's the tournament. We'll update before we go, but let's move on to a little bit of Saints news. And I said, they re-signed Jameis Winston this week. They signed Jamaal Williams this week. They signed some defensive tackles. No really big signings. No huge splashes. We knew that wasn't going to happen.
I completely disagree. In
fact,
you
think Jamaal Williams is a splash?
Yeah, absolutely. You left the headline out of the headline. To me, Jamaal Williams is a huge signing for this team. They needed a running back in the worst way, and now they got the guy who led the league in touchdowns last year. I think he could be a 1,000-yard back with the Saints. I really do. I mean, you saw him, especially in games last year where he came and was a top back, not just scoring touchdowns. He's got a nice combination of power and speed. This is one where I know we've got a graphic up here. If we could bring Spencer in and ask him, he's the guru on individual guys, but I think he, you don't see him enough because he played for Detroit. But I think, and I don't think I'm overstating this, I think he could be a number one back, and especially with Kamara being gone for at least 6 weeks, maybe as many as 8 or 10, depending on how hard they come on him. I mean, how effective is he going to be when he comes back? So I think this is a huge signing. I think they'll get another one in the draft, maybe even another one in free agency. But you can't have enough running backs. And to me, they got themselves a real number one, in my opinion. That is by far the biggest of the 4 signings. And don't get me wrong, Jameis Winston coming back as a backup is a huge deal. We're going to talk about that tomorrow on Datitude with Doug Mouton of WWL. But I think the biggest one of them all is Jamaal Williams.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll bring Spencer on for the last few minutes of the show, and I do want his take on Jamaal Williams, and I want him to respond to you about the Ragin' Cajuns losing to Tennessee. So let's finish our rants, and then for the last 5 minutes of the show, I want you and Spencer to finish it up, and I'm gonna go back in there and see what's going on. But here's my point on the Saints. Their odds didn't change, right? You see the NFC odds, Super Bowl odds, NFC South odds, they're all the same. So if you think they got noticeably better this week, I'm not convinced they did. I like Jamaal Williams. I like the signing. I don't know that he raises the ceiling of the team. But if that's the case, there may be some value in these numbers if you do think they got better.
I said a week ago that there's value in these numbers. And I mean, I'm not, again, this is something I'm probably going to spend more time talking about in Datitude tomorrow because my rant is on the Pelicans later. And I know you're going to talk about, I think you're going to talk about the Saints. But look, I think what the Saints have done with where they were cap-wise a week ago at this time and how they came out of cap hell and made some of these signings. And I've said defensive tackles are a dime a dozen for the most part. I don't think they're any worse off than they were last week at this time. And that was if they signed Tuttle and Onyemata. I think they're just as good as when they had Tuttle and Onyemata. And having Jameis Winston as a backup quarterback is fantastic. I think they're in a much better situation right now than anyone could have predicted them to be at this point. And Lord knows I haven't had a lot of great things to say about the Saints the last few months.
What's left for them in free agency, you think? Are they at the point where they can just get a couple of pieces to fill out the roster and then worry about the draft? Or do you think there's another significant signing coming?
I think they might have another significant signing up their sleeve. It kind of depends. I think, can you get some depth on the O-line through free agency? I don't know. Can you? I think the best place to go get something in free agency right now is probably a veteran wide receiver that might come on the cheap. So that's the most likely scenario, I think, as far as where they're going to go free agency wise. Now they're going to address a few more things in the draft. I still, we can talk about this. I know you disagree with me, but I still think they need a top-notch running back. I want them to take one of those top guys with the first three picks, first, second, and third round picks. They need another running back. I think they need O-line help. They still need help, obviously, along the defensive front. So to me, those are the three key things that they need right in the draft. But I think you can go get a receiver in free agency and be okay with where you are.
All right, so we'll continue to track that. We'll have lots of draft talk as we go on over the next 6 weeks until the draft starts. I think it's 6 weeks
Jerry
from tonight,
says hello,
the first round of the draft. And our good friend Jerry, that was my fault, Jerry. I'm on Pacific time right now, and so I got confused by what StreamYard was telling me. And we say hello to you as well. All right, Jim, the other New Orleans team, the news is not so good. And that brings us to our sound-off segment. The Pelicans had probably their most important game of the season Tuesday night at home against the Lakers. And quite frankly, the Pelicans no-showed.
Yeah. Look, this is the opposite of what happened last year. And, last year they were fighting their tails off. The last 2.5, 3 months, they came out of a 3-23 hole to fight their way into a play-in game. This year they're going to do just the opposite. I mean, you looked at the first month and a half, 2 months of the season, and they were number one in the NBA's in the West. And now they're fighting to get to a play-in. So what I saw Tuesday night was a team that came out super flat. And they played well in the second half. The problem is you can't play a half like they played in the second half. No defense. And at times this team just falls flat on its face defensively. You can't have that and expect to be any good. And I don't think they are any good right now. And it worries me. You don't have Zion. You missed Brandon Ingram for a few games, but he was back on Tuesday, and he wasn't hitting anything. And they weren't playing defense. And, Lakers kept hitting threes. And then when they weren't hitting threes, they were underneath the goal, standing all alone by themselves. So AD or no AD, and then they lost. That same Lakers team went without AD, went and lost to Houston. There's no excuse anymore. So right now they sit 12 in the West. They aren't mathematically eliminated as the lower third says, but I say, let's face it, the season is over. Even if they sneak in as a 10 seed some kind of way, which is possible, I think they get eliminated early because they're not playing with any heart right now. They're certainly not playing with any defense, and playing great once every 3 games isn't going to cut it.
No, I mean, at some point you have to face facts, right? Like let's say they get a 10 seed. That's 2 road games. They can't win on the road. They haven't beat a good team on the road the entire season. So at least not since opening night in Brooklyn. They just are not. At some point, you have to face facts that this is not a playoff caliber team. This is not what we thought they were. Shout out Denny Green in December.
Playoffs.
And at this point, unless something changes dramatically, it's over. It's over. Okay, for my rant, I'm going to go to football. This Aaron Rodgers thing, I know you riffed on it a couple weeks ago, Jim, and Aaron Rodgers came on the Pat show yesterday and said, look, it's not me. I've told the Packers I want to go to New York, and they're just trying to figure out compensation. Well, part of that was he told the Jets that he wanted them to sign Alan Lazard, and he wanted them to sign OBJ, and he had this wish list, and at some point, these guys you're asking the Jets to sign are not better than what they've got. And so all you're doing is making them spend money. They're going to have to spend draft capital to get him from the Packers. And then what happens? The Jets have put all their eggs in signing Aaron Rodgers and getting to one chance at a Super Bowl in 2023 when the Buffalo Bills are in your division and are going to be favored anyway. If Aaron Rodgers can take you to the Super Bowl, then it all works out. But what if he doesn't? Then he goes back into the darkness next offseason. He retires, and you're left holding the bag with all these bad receiver contracts, having given up a first-round pick or a couple second-round picks to the Packers, and you're right back where you started. Like, the Jets feel like they're the Jets for a reason, and right now it's because they have this tunnel vision for Aaron Rodgers, and he's shown that he doesn't really care.
I agree. And the problem, though, with the Jets is they've been used to watching such awful quarterback play to be able to have a chance to get a guy like Aaron Rodgers. They think that's going to solve all their problems. And they're still in a tough division. They're still not as good as the Buffalo Bills, even though some of the talking heads are trying to wish it into existence. They're not. They're not as good as Buffalo. And it's debatable on whether they're as good as Miami or New England. So obviously it makes them better. Like I said a few weeks ago, I could see this coming. I went and put some money on them at 30-1. Now I think there are something ridiculous like 15-1. You can't even think about betting the Jets to win the Super Bowl at 15-1. That's a complete waste. You're getting zero value. In fact, you're betting into Vegas's hands there. But I do think they will be better. But I don't like the way it played out. I think he's a prima donna, and prima donnas usually get what they deserve. Not always, but I think in this case, this one will.
That roar you heard behind me, I think Charleston just tied up San Diego State.
I thought that sounded like one of our when you're waiting for the show to start. That's what that sounded like. That was a real roar.
That was a real roar, and I think it's the Charleston San Diego State game now tied with 3 minutes to go. So lots of excitement. Listen, I'm going to sign off and go see what's going on. Zach doing live from Las Vegas. I want Spencer the Guru to come on because he's got a couple things to respond to. First of all, you just threw the Raging Cajuns under the bus for tonight's game.
Yeah.
And second of all, we want his take on Jamaal Williams as well. So I'm going to sign off. Y'all have a good weekend. And here comes Spencer the Guru.
All right. Well, we couldn't get rid of Zach soon enough there. I'm sorry. It was such an abrupt thing. But Spence, welcome in. First, let's talk a little bit about March Madness really quickly. Your take on what we said, anything you completely disagreed with or you liked, or are there any specific things you want to pick or whatever?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with most of it. I like the Oral Roberts take. I think Duke's overrated. They're a classic example of, as you like to say, Jim, an Aunt Mabel team. So I agree with that. I liked a lot of the takes, but the disrespect to my raging. It
wasn't disrespect. There was no disrespect intended. It was just my thoughts.
Yeah, for sure.
And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to tell you.
I understand not picking them to win outright because, it's a 13-4 in Tennessee, an SEC team is going to be tough to beat. I admit that. I put a little bet with my heart money line play on the Cajuns, but I think the spread, there's no bias. I think the 11.5-point spread is a good value for the Cajuns because they've got the transfer Jordan Brown. They got it, the Arizona transfer. It's his second year with the program. He has really stepped up this year to where he and the local kid, Greg Williams Jr., went to LCA there in Lafayette. He was another one. They both transferred in last year. It was kind of a rough transition, but this year they've meshed, gelled well together, won the Sun Belt, and didn't just win it just off a fluke thing. They were one of the top teams in the conference all year, and not an awful basketball conference. It's not like it is in baseball, but it's a fairly respectable basketball conference where I think without the Tennessee point guard, I feel like they can cover that spread relatively easy because I think there's a slim chance they win. Hard for me to predict. Objectively, with my heart, I'm an alum. Of course, I'm going to pick the Cajuns, but being objective, I think they cover that 11.5. I doubled down on that. I bet on it when it first came out, and I've doubled down the day, so we'll see who ends up right.
I expect text messages one way or the other in our text group, and I'm sure Zoe is thrilled about hearing that part of it. Okay, let's move on to football and the New Orleans Saints. And do you share my take on Jamaal Williams? I think this is a huge get for this team. I think is a very underrated back. And at 3 years, $12 million, I think that is a steal.
Yep, 100%. I talked about that on the Bayou Bets pre-show. I felt like that was such a huge signing. I feel like, speaking of disrespect, Zach kind of disrespected Jamaal Williams. Just some running back. Oh, he's more than that. I mean,
he just led the league in touchdowns, Spence. Right. That's who cares? What a big deal.
Because the thing a lot of times I look at it is efficiency. Because a lot of times, guys that those early down guys that get a lot of touchdowns, yeah, they do that, but they're not that efficient. Where Jamaal Williams was a respectable 4.1 yards a carry. It's not an elite average. You just like 4.5 and above is what you really want. But it's hard to do that if you're getting a lot of carries. And he got a lot of carries last year to where he basically became the starting running back for Detroit. Unexpected, because we all thought DeAndre Swift was going to be able to do that. But Williams basically took Swift's job and ran with it. Had his first 1,000-yard season, did it in an efficient clip, and had that nose for the end zone, which is something the Saints need, because Alvin Kamara, he's not a bruising back. He's better served as a complement who can carry more of a load than a typical complement. But we need a bigger back.
Spence, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Mark Ingram earlier in his career, and I think that's why he fits in here. Because I think he's a lot like Mark Ingram. He might not be quite as, not to say Mark Ingram was a blazer, but he might not be quite as fast, but he has the same kind of power that Mark Ingram has. They didn't use Mark Ingram enough to me along the goal line, but to me that who he's comparable to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like he's got the heart too. I think he's going to be a really good locker room guy. He's somebody that even though Detroit in that last game, they were eliminated. They won't beat Green Bay, and he was just like so emotional after the game, where it's like you can tell this guy puts his blood, sweat, and tears into this, and those are the kind of players you want on your team in your locker room.
All right, Spence. Final thoughts as we head on back into March Madness. Whether it be Saints, Pels, whatever you want. Give me one final thought.
All right, I'll go with the Pels. I said it on the pre-show, and I'll say it again. If they don't win tomorrow against Houston, not only is their season over as far as making a playoff push, I don't even think they make the play-in tournament if they don't win tomorrow. They've got to get back in the win column. It's getting ugly, and you've got to show you can win on the road. That's why it's on the road. It's at Houston. It's a team, though, that's been trending up. Jabari Smith, their first-round pick's been playing a lot better lately, so it's not going to be a cakewalk. And the way these Pels have been playing, I'm not trying to be a hater, but I'm kind of thinking they just lay down. Hopefully they prove me wrong, but it's not looking good.
Well, I don't know if they'll lay down, but one thing we know is you can't take anything for granted with this Pels team. No matter who they play, you never know if they're going to show up or not. And if they show up, they ought to win by 20. If they don't show up, they might lose by 10 or 15. So we'll find out. And one thing I would add to what Spencer says, not only do I think they need to win tomorrow, but I think they need to beat them again on Sunday. I think you need to hit both of these back-to-backs to get yourself back into it and realistically back in it. I mean, we're getting to the point now where I think there's 3 weeks left in the season, so there's no more playing around. So that's where we are. I mean, either do it now or you don't do it. So, all right, Spence, I expect the tech. I can't wait for the text tonight.
Ooh, it'll be spicy.
Whichever one of us is right. Not rooting against UL, except for the fact that I do have a bet, so maybe I am rooting against them. I don't know.
Both have money on the line, so it's going to be spicy.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. For Zach Ewing, who is off into Las Vegas, La La Land. For Zoe Collinsworth, who is behind the scenes, and Spencer the Guru Urquhart. I am Jim Derry. We will see you on Monday on Bayou Bets, and tomorrow on Datitude with Doug Mouton of WWL, talking a lot of Saints. Join us at 9:15 a.m. on all these same Bayou Bet stations. We will see you then. Enjoy March Madness, everybody. We'll talk to you later.